ESPN Radio 97.7 and 100.1. This is In the Booth with Matt Park.
Earlier this week, and while we're talking about a lot of different things, there was the baseball rainout and whatever, and then boom, U.S. men's national team in soccer loses to Trinidad and Tobago, and the whole world ceases to spin on its axis. But got to play dumb on this one, and it's really not much of a stretch as we welcome in Paul Mairs. Paul is a friend of and co-author of our friend Richard Shaw, who does some of our ACC Network Extra broadcast of Syracuse men's and women's soccer. And hello, Paul. Good to you.
How are you doing, Matt? Okay.
I'm great. Thank you, and thanks for your time. Normally I sit here and I try to tell the world what I know about sports, and I'm going to, in this one, I know just enough to be dangerous, I think, about soccer. So we thought we would walk through this with your expertise, and you maybe tell us what's going on here and what can be fixed. Paul is the co-author with Richard of a book called Coaching Outside the Box. And Richard tells me that maybe you guys foretold this a little bit, that United States soccer is going about it the wrong way, and it would pay with some bad ramifications here, and the Americans aren't going to be in the next World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not a prophet. I can certainly try my best in answering the question you posed. Richard and I, like you said, we've been speaking about it now for 15, 20 years. It's been a culmination, Matt, of years of, bad practice at the youth levels. People looking at Klinsmann, people look at Bruce Arena, people look at the players we've got now. Really, it's just, you reap what you sow. And unfortunately, at the youth levels of the game, there's massive issues. There's been massive issues now for, like I say, 15, 20 years. There's too much emphasis on team development. There's too much emphasis on tournament play. Too much emphasis on elite development way too early. And basically, all these factors get thrown into the pot, thrown into the mix. And what you get is what you're seeing right now. You're seeing a roster of American players where, they lack creativity, imagination. Listen, there's some good players, some pretty decent players, but in terms of actual world-class talent, there's a massive lack of that. And that basically boils down to the stuff we speak about in the book. Too many coaches are putting the emphasis on winning at all costs. And the pay-to-play model, Matt, that's a massive, massive issue, because what it does is it gives this perception that we call it the health illusion. It gives this perception that if you pay a certain amount for coaching fees, people think that you're getting expertise and you're getting fantastic coaching, when in actual fact, we see that isn't happening right across the board, right across the nation. And unfortunately, it's the truth, we've got to say it, some people are more motivated by greed than development. So all these issues manifest, and you get to the result that we witnessed the other night.
All right, well, let me see if you can help me walk through this. So, and correct me if I'm wrong in some of my assumptions or observations from a distance. So, in America, if you're here and you're a suburban kid and you show some interest and ability in soccer, you're 8, 10, 12, and now mom and dad go out of pocket to put you on these travel teams, and you're playing year-round, and you're coached by somebody who knows what they're doing, and you play a zillion games, and you go off, right? So, am I right so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
So 10 or 12-year-old, so that's 10 or 12-year-old Johnny here. 10 or 12-year-old Liam, where you're from, what's his experience?
So in England, it's a lot different. The pay-to-play model, it's not just England, it's in Europe. It's pretty much everywhere in Europe. Basically, you've got clubs, kind of like rec clubs in America, where you go and play just for a pastime and you enjoy it. You don't pay any fees, Matt. When you get to 10, 11, 12, if you've got potentially a little bit of talent, then the professional academies will come in. So the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. And this goes, there's many, many tiers of this. And the players, again, they don't have to pay for this. They will go there to these academies and get specialised training. And this tournament circuit, this obsession with, pay to play, it doesn't exist. So what it does, Matt, is it opens the potential talent pool. You know what I'm saying? It basically means that we've got a wider range of players to select from. And what happens in America, because of this pay-to-play model, simply just excluding massive amounts of potential talent that could flourish given the right circumstances and the right environment.
Is that because they choose other sports? I think that the cliche explanation in America is the reason the United States is not a national or international player and a threat to win the World Cup every time is because the best athletes in America are LeBron James and football players, and they're doing other things. Is that bunk or accurate?
Well, it's an interesting point, and it's an interesting argument. And the response to that I always give is people become obsessed too much with physicality and speed and being an athlete. When in actual fact, the elite players who attained elite status, the likes of Messi, Paul Scholes, Luka Modric, Iniesta, Xavi, people who are well versed with soccer will know these players at Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United. They're 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". They've not got innate fantastic qualities in terms of physicality. What separates them is decision making, spatial awareness, anticipation skills, peripheral vision, fast decision making. And what happens in America a lot. And listen, I'm not just bashing America here. This happens in the UK, by the way. We've seen Scotland get knocked out of the qualifying rounds only a few days ago. So this is not just exclusively to the United States. This happens in a lot of areas. But what a major reason this is happening, the lack of decision making and game intelligence skills, is because kids aren't in unstructured, unsupervised soccer activity when they're young. So what happens between the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? They should be playing in an environment where there's minimal coach intervention. They can get on with it. There's got freedom to be creative, freedom to make their own decisions. So back to the question that you made. Yes, there are other sports in the sports space, the sport landscape in America. These sports are there; they're not going anywhere. Baseball, American football, basketball, they're here to stay. However, that argument that they just recruit, they've just got the best athletes, it doesn't really stand for me, because in actual fact, when you go to the elite levels of the game anyway, you see many cases where innate physicality isn't just the main difference. It's the decision making, like I said.
Sure. Well, obviously Lionel Messi, who all of us know, I don't care how little soccer you watch, you know that he's among the best in the world. He's not a threat to play any of those other sports, based on just his size alone, but obviously has a gift. It's interesting. I think probably all sports could learn from letting kids just sort of play and figure it out on their own for a little while. They develop maybe their own better decision making, and that's true in basketball and football too, I would think. Before you start dealing with overcoaching. We're visiting with Paul Mairs from Coaching Outside the Box, and he's involved in the local soccer scene. And I was saying, as it relates to the stuff that we deal with most of the time here, which is Syracuse University sports, Paul, I follow the team. I know the coaches. I watch a little bit. And to me, the fact that, and they're having a little bit of a down year, in part because they have 16 new players, the very fact that most of elite college soccer in America is a lot of Europeans coming over indicates to me that there's a tough time with 15 to 18-year-old, high school age recruitable athletes. There's not enough good ones in America maybe to field the best college soccer teams.
Well, this is what you're getting now. We take a lot of kids over to England and Europe, and they see the level, they see the discrepancy there. They like, wow, a lot of players who are discarded by leading academies now, especially in the UK, they're actually coming over and taking the spots in America. They're getting the scholarships. So you're getting kids who play for Norway U18 team or the Norway U21 team, the Scotland U19 team. So there's this quality in abundance coming over, which is making it even more difficult for the local kids to get any spots on the rosters. And it's interesting, Matt. I mean, I don't want to sort of diverge, but I was reading some research the other day that even though soccer, in terms of spectatorship and people watching the EPL and stuff on TV, those figures are rising, but alarmingly and not surprisingly, for Richard and I, the participation rates in a lot of youth sports, in particular, a lot of team sports, they're actually on the decline. So compared to 2008, compare that with now, I think it's gone down like 9%, 10%, which is a massive, massive reduction. And the reason is people are just getting sick and tired of the fakery, the misguided promises, the early focus on elite development, kids just travelling from state to state to state, getting burnt out. And it's, unfortunately, you're seeing the reward, not the reward, you're seeing the opposite, you're seeing the
outcome of it, yeah.
Folks, yeah. It's sad, it's sad to see.
All right, well, that's good stuff. We feel smarter about it now. We're running out of time here, but I guess there's a lot of time for the American soccer community to get it figured out here because they'll be sitting out the next World Cup, so got to build it up to the one after that. Paul, thanks for your time and best of luck, okay?
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, maybe we'll do it again with Paul Mairs from Coaching Outside the Box. And the next World Cup that the Americans could be in, which we were talking about it last week, is the one in Qatar in 2022. That might not be any picnic to be in, and maybe that'll be somewhere else. Maybe it's hosted here. That brings up out a whole other kettle of fish.